Welcome to Sleepy Buddha, a quiet place to rest your mind. Release what feels heavy. Let each our stories and teaching guide you towards stillness, deep rest, and a calmer heart. What if peace does not arrive when your life becomes easier, but when one breath becomes honest enough to hold you? Tonight is for the person who has been breathing all day without feeling rested. Maybe your chest has moved, yet the breath never reached the places where worry sits. Maybe your body has completed many tasks, answered many messages, carried many polite smiles, and still some quiet part of you is waiting to be comforted. You may have opened your phone for a moment and lost half an hour. You may have finished work and still heard the sound of unfinished work inside your head. You may have spoken kindly to others, while your own inner voice stayed sharp, hurried, and tired. So let this journey be different. You are not being asked to fix your entire life tonight. You are not being asked to become perfect, disciplined, spiritual, strong, or endlessly calm. You are only being invited to feel one breath more clearly than the last, then another, not because breath is a trick, but because breath is where the body remembers safety before the mind can explain it. In Buddhist practice, wisdom rarely arrives as a thunderclap. More often, it arrives like warm water poured slowly into a cold bowl. At first, nothing seems to change. Then the whole vessel becomes different. The stories tonight will move in that way. They will not chase you. They will not argue with your thoughts. They will sit beside you like a patient monk at the edge of a quiet path, pointing not to a distant heaven, but to the small doorway already opening beneath your own ribs. There will be monks, travelers, rivers, lamps, temples, markets, tired workers, silent gardens, and ordinary people who discover calm in places that do not look calm at all. Each story will bring you to a gate, not a gate you must force open, a gate that softens when you stop pushing. Through these gates, we will learn how to breathe through hurry, how to loosen the knot of control, how to stop carrying old conversations, how to listen to the body, how to release the need to win every inner argument, and how to rest without asking permission from the world. Before we begin, take one natural breath. Do not make it beautiful. Do not make it deep. Let it be exactly the breath that is here. Notice where it enters. Notice where it stops. Notice if your shoulders try to help. Notice if your jaw is holding a sentence you never said. This is not a test. It is a meeting. You are meeting yourself again quietly, without blame. Tonight, every breath is allowed to be a teacher. Gate 1. The bell that waited for the breath. In a small mountain village, long before phones could glow beside a sleeping face, there was a temple with a bronze bell hanging under a wooden roof. The bell was old, darkened by rain and smoke, and the villagers believed its sound could settle even the most restless heart. Every evening, people climbed the stone steps to hear it. Farmers came with tired backs. Mothers came with sleeping children wrapped against their shoulders. Merchants came with dust on their sleeves. Young students came with minds full of questions they did not know how to ask. The bell was struck by an elderly monk named Ren. He had lived at the temple for 40 years and moved with such slowness that impatient visitors sometimes wondered whether he had forgotten what he was doing. He would stand beside the bell, lift the wooden striker, close his eyes, and wait. Sometimes he waited so long that the whole courtyard became uneasy. Feet shifted, throats cleared, children whispered. Someone always wondered why he did not simply hit the bell and finish the ceremony. One evening, a traveler arrived after a long journey through rain. He was a trader from the capital, used to crowded streets, quick bargaining, and the constant pressure of arriving before someone else took his place. He reached the temple, soaked, irritated, and hungry. When Ren lifted the striker and then paused, the trader felt heat rise in his chest. He had walked all day. He wanted the bell. He wanted the blessing. He wanted to return to the inn and eat. At last, he spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Old monk, why do you make us wait for a sound that takes only a moment?" Ren opened his eyes, not offended, not hurried. He looked at the trader as though looking at a cup that had been filled too close to the rim. Then he said, "I do not wait for the bell. I wait for the people to arrive." The trader frowned. "We are already here." Ren nodded. "Your feet are here. Your coat is here. Your irritation is certainly here. But your breath is still running down the road behind you." The courtyard became very quiet. Ren lowered the striker. "Before the bell speaks," he said, "listen to the bell inside your chest. If you cannot hear that, the bronze will only become another noise." Then he invited everyone to place one hand gently near the ribs. No one was forced. The trader almost refused, but the silence of the villagers made refusal feel louder than obedience. He placed his palm against his wet robe and noticed something surprising. His breathing was short, uneven, almost angry. He had crossed mountains, bought goods, argued prices, measured distance, guarded coins, and planned tomorrow's route. Yet he had not actually felt himself breathe since sunrise. Ren waited. The rain tapped the temple roof. A child sighed in sleep. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl called once and was quiet. Slowly, the trader's breath lengthened, not because he commanded it, but because attention softened the place where urgency had been pressing. His shoulders lowered without his permission. The tightness behind his eyes eased. He realized that his whole body had been behaving as if danger were chasing him, though nothing chased him except the habit of rushing. Only then did Ren lift the striker again. This time, nobody complained. When wood met bronze, the sound rolled through the courtyard like a deep breath made visible. It moved through rain, sleeves, old grief, fresh worry, the restless mind of the trader, and the sleepy dreams of the child. It did not demand belief. It simply expanded, faded, and left behind the strange relief of being present. Years later, the trader would forget many things from that journey. He would forget the price of silk, the name of the inn, the color of the horse he rented on the third morning. But he would remember the old monk saying, "Your breathing has not reached this doorway yet." Whenever he became harsh with himself or impatient with others, he would pause and ask, "Has my breath arrived?" This first gate is simple. It asks whether you have arrived where your body already is. Modern life teaches the opposite. It trains you to be everywhere except here. Your hands eat dinner while your mind answers tomorrow's email. Your eyes watch a loved one speak while your thoughts prepare a reply to someone who is not in the room. Your body lies in bed while your nervous system walks through meetings, mistakes, old embarrassments, money concerns, family duties, and uncertain futures. You may think you are resting, but parts of you are still traveling. A deep breath is not only air, it is a signal. It tells the body that the chase can pause. It tells the mind that this moment does not need to be escaped. It tells the heart that nobody is asking it to carry the entire future while lying on a pillow. Try this gently. Feel the place where your body touches the bed, chair, or floor. Let that contact be enough for a few seconds. Breathe in without correcting yourself. Breathe out as though putting down one small bag at a doorway. Not all the bags, just one. The bag of today, the bag of needing to know, the bag of trying to appear fine when you are tired. There is no need to perform calm. Real calm often begins by admitting, I have been away from myself. Then the breath becomes a path home. The bell in the mountain temple did not heal the traitor because it was magical. It healed him because it made him notice the sound he had ignored all day. The bell outside pointed to the bell inside. The temple was not only in the village, it was in the pause before reaction. It was in the breath that finally arrived. So, tonight, whenever a thought says, hurry, you may answer softly, first, let my breath catch up. You are allowed to arrive slowly. Gate 2, the bowl that could not hold the sky. Near the edge of a forest monastery, there lived a young novice named Toma, who was admired for his effort and quietly harmed by it. He woke before the others, swept the paths twice, memorized chants faster than anyone his age, and bowed so perfectly that visiting donors smiled when they saw him. On the outside, he looked devoted. Inside, he was always measuring. Was his bow deep enough? Was his meditation long enough? Did the teacher notice his discipline? Had another novice understood the lesson better? Was his mind too noisy? Was his compassion too shallow? Even when he sat beneath the pines, he was not sitting. He was comparing the person he was with, the person he believed he should become. One morning, the abbot asked Toma to bring water from the well. Toma hurried gladly, thinking a simple task performed well might prove his sincerity. He chose the largest clay bowl in the kitchen, ran to the well, filled it to the top, and began walking back. Because he moved quickly, water spilled over the rim. He slowed down, but the bowl was too full. Every small step sent another silver sheet down its side. By the time he reached the abbot, half the water had returned to the earth. The abbot looked into the bowl and said, "You wanted to carry more than the bowl could hold." Toma lowered his eyes. "I failed at a simple task." "No," the abbot replied. "You believed fullness was success." He took the bowl, poured out more water until it was only half full, and handed it back. "Now walk to the well and return again." Toma did as he was told. The second walk was different. The water moved, but it did not escape. There was room for the motion of walking, room for his breath, room for the slight trembling of his hands. When he returned, the abbot smiled. A bowl needs space to carry water. A life needs space to carry wisdom. Toma did not understand immediately. Young minds often prefer dramatic answers. They want thunder, not a bowl. But over the next months, he began noticing how often he overfilled himself. He filled silence with judgment. He filled learning with ambition. He filled service with the need to be seen as good. He filled prayer with the fear of doing prayer incorrectly. Then he wondered why peace kept spelling away. Many people live like Toma, not because they are foolish, but because they were praised for carrying too much. From childhood, we are told that more effort means more worth. More achievement means more safety. More speed means more competence. More knowledge means more control. So, the bowl becomes crowded. Work, family, messages, bills, health worries, social expectations, future planning, old regret, invisible comparison. Then we add spirituality on top of it and ask, why am I not peaceful yet? A deep breath needs space. That sounds obvious, but most of us try to breathe while holding an entire courtroom inside the chest. The judge says you should be further ahead. The witness brings evidence from every mistake. The prosecutor reminds you of what others might think. The defense tries to explain your exhaustion. All of this happens before breakfast, and you wonder why the body feels tight. The Buddhist path is not about adding one more performance. It is about seeing clearly what you have been carrying. Some things are responsibilities. Keep those with care. Some things are love. Hold them gently. Some things are old demands that no longer deserve a room in your body. Put them down, not with hatred, not with dramatic rejection, simply because the bowl was never made to hold the sky. Take a small pause now. Imagine your mind as a clay bowl resting in both hands. Notice what has filled it today. One worry, one expectation, one unfinished task, one memory, one sentence someone said, one desire to be understood, one fear about tomorrow. Do not throw everything away. Just notice the fullness. Then imagine pouring out one unnecessary drop. Perhaps the drop is the need to solve tonight what belongs to next week. Perhaps it is the demand that you fall asleep immediately. Perhaps it is the belief that being tired means you have failed. Let one drop return to the earth. This is enough for now. Later, Toma became known not for working the hardest, but for moving with a quiet steadiness that calmed new students. When asked what teaching changed him, he never mentioned an advanced sutra. He would lift an empty bowl and say, "The part that holds water is not the clay, it is the space. Your peace also needs space. Not a perfect schedule, not a flawless mind, not a life where nobody disappoints you. Space. A breath before answering. A minute before opening the next app. An evening where you let one unfinished thing remain unfinished without punishing yourself. A softer relationship with your own limits. There is humility in admitting, I cannot carry everything tonight. There is wisdom in choosing not to try. Gate 3. The woman who folded worry into cloth. In a riverside town where lanterns swayed over narrow streets, there lived a woman named Anne. She repaired torn clothing for villagers. Her hands knew fabric the way musicians know strings. She could feel a weak seam with her fingertips, match thread by lamplight, and mend a sleeve so gently that the tear almost seemed to forgive itself. People brought her robes, aprons, blankets, work shirts, children's coats, and sometimes pieces of cloth that were too damaged to restore, and always tried. She believed every tear deserved patience, yet her own mind was full of tears she would not examine. At night, after the town slept, Anne stayed awake replaying conversations. A customer had sighed while paying. Did that mean he was unhappy? Her sister had not visited in 3 weeks. Was she angry? The landlord had mentioned repairs. Would the rent rise? Her son coughed twice before bed. Was illness coming? One thought led to another until the room felt crowded with invisible guests. To calm herself, Anne folded cloth. She folded clean linen into squares, then unfolded it and folded again. She stacked old fabric by color. She arranged thread. She told herself she was preparing for tomorrow, but truly, she was trying to fold worry into order. One night, a traveling nun came to her door with a torn gray cloak. Rain had soaked the hem, and a branch had ripped a long line across the shoulder, and invited her in, warmed tea, and examined the damage. "This will take time," Anne said. The nun smiled. "Time has been taking me for years. Tonight, I can return the favor." Anne laughed despite herself and began sewing. The nun watched silently for a while, then asked, "Do you repair thoughts as carefully as cloth?" Anne's needle stopped. "Thoughts cannot be repaired. Some can be mended," said the nun. "Some only need to be seen. Some must be allowed to unravel." Anne felt suddenly defensive. "My thoughts protect me. If I do not think ahead, something bad may happen." The nun lifted a scrap of torn cloth. "If you pull every loose thread because you fear the garment will fail, you may create the tear you were trying to prevent." The words entered Anne like cold water. She wanted to reject them, but her own body answered first. Her shoulders were tight. Her eyes burned. Her fingers trembled around the needle. She had believed worrying was care, yet it had not made her kinder, clearer, or safer. It had only made her absent from the life she was trying to protect. The nun asked for a small bowl of water. When Anne brought it, the nun dropped a pinch of dust from the floor into the bowl and stirred. The water clouded. Then she placed the bowl on the table and said nothing. Minutes passed. The dust slowly sank, leaving the water clearer. "Did the water become clear because it solved the dust?" the nun asked. "No," Anne whispered. "It became still." That night, Anne learned a practice she used for the rest of her life. When worry arrived, she did not immediately chase it. She did not argue with it or obey it. She named it gently: planning, fearing, remembering, guessing. Then she returned to one stitch, one breath, one sound in the room. The worry did not vanish like smoke. It settled like dust in water. The teaching here is tender and practical. Many people believe peace requires the removal of every worried thought. That belief creates a second worry. Then the mind tightens around itself. Buddhism offers another way. You do not need to defeat the mind. You need to stop stirring it every few seconds. Think about your own nights. How many times have you tried to solve a future that did not exist yet? How often has the mind opened one concern, then another, as if anxiety were a drawer with endless compartments? You may call it being responsible. Sometimes it is. But sometimes It is only the habit of touching a bruise to see whether it still hurts. Try this now. Choose one worry that has followed you recently. Do not choose the biggest one. Choose one small enough to hold without drowning. Say silently, "This is worry." Not truth, not prophecy, not command. Worry. Let the label be soft, almost boring. Then feel your next breath as though sewing one careful stitch through the present. Inhale, the needle enters. Exhale, the thread passes through. Nothing dramatic. Just one stitch. Anne did not become a person without concerns. Her son still coughed sometimes. Customers still sighed. Rent still changed. Life remained life. But she stopped treating every thought as an emergency message from the universe. She learned to ask, is this a problem asking for action? Or is this dust asking for stillness? That question saved many nights. Years later, when younger women came to her shop exhausted by their own minds, Anne would hand them a small square of cloth and teach them to fold slowly, not to control life, not to hide from pain, to remember that hands can return the mind to earth. Fold one edge, breathe, fold another, breathe. Let worry settle before deciding what it means. Your mind may be busy tonight. That is not failure. It may be carrying unfinished conversations, uncertain plans, and old stories that still ask for attention. Let them be seen without letting them drive. A thought can visit without becoming a ruler. A worry can knock without being given the whole house. The cloth does not become whole by being pulled harder. The mind does not become calm by being forced silent. Sometimes one soft stitch is enough. Soft interlude, returning between the gates. Before the next teaching continues, let there be a small clearing. Long journeys need clearings. Even the mind that loves wisdom can become crowded when insight arrives too quickly. So pause here, as if you have reached a bench beneath trees. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be taken away. Notice the breath again, not as a method to improve yourself, but as a friend who has walked beside you the whole way. It was present during every worry you survived. It was present when you did not know what to do. It was present when you felt proud, ashamed, hopeful, frightened, lonely, or relieved. Breath does not ask for your spiritual resume. It simply returns. If your attention has drifted, that is natural. Drifting is not the opposite of practice. Forgetting and returning are the practice. The moon disappears behind clouds and appears again without apology. Let your attention return in the same way, quietly, without punishment, without announcing failure. Feel the body as a landscape. The forehead may be a hill where thoughts gather. The throat may be a narrow bridge where unsaid words wait. The chest may be a room where old feelings sit in dim light. The belly may be a field that is tightened against uncertainty. The hands may be small animals that forgot how to rest. Let every place receive one breath, not enough to force change, only enough to say, I know you are there. This is how deep rest begins, not as escape, but as friendship with the parts of you that were left outside the door. You do not need to understand every ache before you can soften. You do not need to solve every story before you can sleep. Sometimes the nervous system needs one clear message more than any explanation. We are not running now. Let that message move through you slowly. We are no longer running this moment. The road may pause. The inbox may remain closed. The decision can stand outside until morning. The version of yourself you are trying to become can wait. For this moment, the work is receiving breath. For this moment, the teaching is enoughness. Gate 4. The Bridge of Unsent Words. There was once a wooden bridge between two villages. It crossed a narrow gorge where white water moved quickly over dark stones. In spring, the bridge smelled of cedar and rain. In winter, frost gathered along its rails. Everyone used it. Children on their way to lessons, elders carrying herbs, farmers leading oxen, lovers pretending not to be lovers, and merchants shouting cheerful lies about the freshness of their fruit. Near this bridge lived a man named Darrow, who was known for being reasonable. That was the word people used, reasonable. He did not shout in public. He did not complain when insulted. He did not ask for much. If someone took advantage of his patience, he smiled. If a neighbor borrowed tools and returned them broken, he said, "It is no matter." If his brother mocked his quiet life, he changed the subject. Everyone praised Darrow's calm, but his body knew the truth. At night, his jaw ached, his stomach twisted after family gatherings. His breath became shallow whenever he heard footsteps near his gate. He had confused silence with peace. He had buried anger so deeply that it began speaking through muscle and sleep. One autumn morning, a Zen teacher came to the bridge and saw Darrow standing there staring at the water. The teacher was carrying no bundle, only a walking stick polished by use. "You look like a man listening to a river say something unpleasant," the teacher said. Darrow almost smiled. "I am only thinking." "Thinking can be a useful servant," said the teacher. "It becomes a cool host when it never lets anyone leave." For reasons he did not understand, Darrow told the teacher about his brother. For years, the brother had dismissed him, borrowed money, criticized his work, and then acted wounded whenever Darrow tried to speak. Darrow had swallowed his replies to keep harmony. Yet the harmony existed only on the outside. Inside, resentment had become a second skeleton. The teacher listened without interrupting. Then he pointed to the bridge. "If one plank breaks, do you call the bridge peaceful because nobody mentions it?" "No," Darrow said. "If villagers keep crossing until someone falls, was silence kind?" Darrow looked away. The teacher continued, "Right speech does not mean pleasant speech. It means truthful words offered without poison. Sometimes compassion sounds like a boundary." That evening, Darrow sat at a low table and wrote a letter to his brother. At first, the words came like stones. "You always. You never. You made me." He saw how bitterness wanted to dress itself as truth. He tore the paper and began again. The second letter was softer but still dishonest, full of apologies he did not feel. He tore that too. The third letter was simple. "Brother, I care for you, but I cannot continue lending money when it is returned with mockery. I will not discuss my life while being insulted. I want peace between us. and peace needs respect. He did not send the letter immediately. He placed it beside a candle and breathed until his hands stopped shaking. The next morning, he crossed the bridge and delivered it. His brother reacted badly. This is important. In many stories, boundaries are rewarded instantly. The difficult person understands. The family heals. Everyone embraces beneath falling blossoms. Life is not always so tidy. Darrow's brother became angry. He called him selfish. He accused him of being influenced by monks. He left without listening. Darrow returned home trembling. For several hours, doubt attacked him. Had he been cruel? Had he destroyed the family? Should he apologize? Then he noticed something unexpected. Beneath the fear was space. His jaw did not ache. His stomach felt tired, but not twisted. The body, after years of carrying unsent words, had finally exhaled. This gate is about honest speech and the deep breath that follows it. Many listeners tonight may be carrying conversations that never happened. A parent you did not confront. A friend who kept taking. A partner whose silence became heavy. A manager who praised your sacrifice until sacrifice became expected. Sometimes we call this patience. Sometimes it is fear wearing a spiritual robe. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to become passive. Compassion is not the same as permission. Letting go is not pretending harm did not occur. A deep breath may begin when you stop using your own body as storage for words that need a kinder, clearer form. Still, right speech begins inside. Before speaking outward, listen inward. What is the clean truth under the noise? Anger often carries a message, but it wraps that message in fire. Fear often points to a need, but it whispers through trembling. Resentment often says, something important has been ignored too long. If you attack from resentment, you spread suffering. If you listen beneath resentment, you may find the boundary that suffering has been requesting. Try a gentle practice. Think of one relationship where your breath becomes smaller. Do not force yourself to solve it tonight. Simply ask, what sentence has my body been holding? Let the first answer appear. It may be messy. Let it. Then ask, what would this sentence sound like if it were truthful without being cruel? Perhaps the answer is, I need more time before I respond. Perhaps it is, I cannot carry this responsibility alone. Perhaps it is, I love you, and I also need rest. Perhaps it is only, that hurt me. There is a deep breath hidden inside honest language. Weeks after delivering the letter, Darrow's brother returned. He did not apologize dramatically. He stood at the gate, awkward and proud, and said he had brought back the last borrowed coins. Darrow accepted them without triumph. The relationship healed slowly, imperfectly, with many uncomfortable pauses. But the bridge between them became safer because one broken plank had finally been named. The wooden bridge near the gorge remained for many years. Darrow repaired it each season. He learned to replace weak boards before the endangered travelers. Each time he hammered new cedar into place, he remembered that human relationships require the same care. Silence can be generous. Silence can also rot the bridge. Wisdom knows the difference. Tonight, you do not need to send a message. Make a decision. or confront anyone in your imagination. Let the body know that clarity is possible. Let it know that someday, when the time is right, words can be both firm and kind. For now, breathe into the jaw, breathe into the throat. Let the unsent sentences loosen their grip. You are allowed to protect your peace without becoming hard. Gate 5, the lantern seller and the wind. In a city famous for its night market, there was an old lantern seller named May. Her stall stood between a noodle shop and a man who sold carved combs. Every evening, she hung paper lanterns from bamboo poles. Red for celebration, gold for blessing, white for remembrance, blue for travelers, green for healing. When the wind moved through the market, her whole stall glowed like a garden of small moons. People came from distant neighborhoods to buy her lanterns because they said, May understood light. She knew which lantern to suggest for a wedding, which for a sick grandmother, which for a child afraid of darkness, which for a house where grief had recently entered. She rarely spoke more than necessary. She would study a face, choose a lantern and say, This one will keep you company. 1 year. Storms came early. Wind swept through the market each night, tearing signs, knocking baskets over, and blowing out candles. Younger sellers cursed and tied their goods with frantic knots. May remained calm, but even her lanterns suffered. Paper ripped, flames died. Customers stayed home. A boy who helped at the noodle shop watched her relight lanterns again and again. Finally, he asked, Grandmother May, does it not anger you that the wind keeps ruining your work? May trimmed a wick with small scissors. The wind is not ruining my work. It is showing me which flames need shelter. The boy did not understand. A flame should be strong, he said. A flame should be cared for, May replied. She took 2 lanterns from the pole. One was beautiful, but open on all sides. The other was plain, with thicker paper and a small shield around the candle. She lit both and held them toward the wind. The beautiful lantern went dark immediately. The plain one flickered, bowed, and continued burning. Many people want a beautiful mind, May said. Few build a shelter for the flame. This is a teaching for anyone who wonders why peace disappears so easily. You may have a sincere wish to be calm. You may listen to gentle stories, read wise words, meditate sometimes, and truly want to live with a softer heart. Yet the moment you open the phone, enter a stressful room, hear a critical voice, or remember an unfinished problem, the flame goes out. Then you blame yourself. I am not strong enough. I am not spiritual enough. I cannot stay peaceful. But perhaps the issue is not the flame. Perhaps the issue is shelter. In Buddhist practice, the mind is not separate from what it consumes. Words become weather. Images become seeds. Conversations become echoes. The first thing you read in the morning can shape the nervous system before your feet touch the floor. The last thing you watch at night can follow you into dreams. A room full of clutter may not cause suffering by itself, but it can make the mind feel as though 10 unfinished thoughts are standing in the doorway. You do not need to control the whole world. You cannot. The wind will blow. People will speak carelessly. News will be heavy. Work will create pressure. Family members will have moods. The question is not how to remove all wind. The question is how to shelter the flame. Begin with one small shelter. Maybe the phone rests outside the bedroom for the first 10 minutes after waking. Maybe you stop reading comments when your body is already tired. Maybe you clean one corner of your room, not for perfection, but so your eyes can land somewhere peaceful. Maybe before opening email, you place one hand on your chest and take a breath that belongs to you, not to the inbox. This is not weakness. It is wise design. A temple is not sacred because nothing difficult ever happens there. A temple is sacred because its shape reminds the mind how to return. Your life can contain small temples. A cup used only for evening tea, a chair near soft light, a folded blanket, one quiet song, a path you walk without headphones, a notebook where worries are placed before sleep instead of carried into the pillow. Pause now and ask gently, where does my flame lose shelter? Is it in the first hour of the morning? Is it after talking with a certain person? Is it when the room is too bright, the feed too loud, the schedule too crowded? No blame, just seeing. Clear seeing is already the beginning of protection. During the storm season, May changed her stall. She lowered the lanterns. She added curved screens made of thin wood. She placed heavier stones beneath the poles. Her display became less dramatic, but more lanterns stayed lit. Customers returned. Some complained that the stall looked simpler than before. May only smiled. Light that survives the wind is more useful than light arranged for admiration. One evening, the noodle shop boy came running with a tiny lantern he had made himself. It was uneven, patched with leftover paper, and leaning to one side. He had built a small wind guard around the wick. May lit it. The lantern trembled in the moving air, but did not go out. The boy beamed. "It is not beautiful," he said, "but it lives." May bowed to the little flame. Living light is beautiful enough. Tonight, let your peace be living light. Not impressive, not unshakable, not something you display to prove you have mastered yourself. Just a small flame, given shelter. You may need gentler evenings, fewer arguments before bed, less noise after sunset, kinder words from yourself, more pauses between tasks. These are not luxuries. They are lantern walls. If this journey has brought you even a little quiet, I am grateful you are here with Sleepy Buddha. A simple like, subscription, or share can help these stories reach another tired person who may need one peaceful breath tonight. Support, given gently, becomes another lantern in the dark. Now return to your own flame. Feel it behind the ribs. It does not need to become large. It only needs not to be abandoned. Shelter it kindly. Gate 6. The monk who counted other people's footsteps. At a monastery beside a long, dusty road, there lived a monk named Suri who had a habit he did not recognize as suffering. He counted other people's footsteps. When the senior monks walked to the meditation hall, he noticed who arrived early, who moved slowly, who dragged sandals, who seemed lazy, who received praise, who was asked to help the abbot. When villagers came with offerings, he noticed which monk they bowed to first. During chanting, he heard mistakes more loudly than devotion. During work periods, he measured who carried heavy baskets and who found lighter tasks. He told himself he was observing discipline. Truly, he was feeding comparison. Comparison is a subtle thief. It does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers, "Look over there. See how far behind you are. See how much easier they have it. See who is respected. See who is loved. See who appears calm while you struggle." The moment you follow that whisper, your own breath becomes less interesting. Your own path becomes less trustworthy. One afternoon, Suri was assigned to sweep the road outside the monastery gate. He disliked this task because travelers passed constantly, covering the clean ground with new dust. He swept, they walked. Dust returned, he swept again. Carts rolled through, more dust. By sunset, he was irritated. An old hermit who lived in the hills came down carrying roots and wild greens. He watched Suri attack the road with his broom. "Are you sweeping the road or punishing it?" the hermit asked. Suri stopped. "The road will not stay clean." The hermit nodded. "Roads are like that. They meet feet. What is the point of sweeping if dust keeps returning? What is the point of breathing if air keeps leaving?" The hermit replied. Suri had no answer. The hermit sat on a stone and looked at the road. You count every footprint except your own. That is why you are tired. The words stung because they were true. Suri had spent months watching others, their speed, their respect, their mistakes. He had turned the monastery into a marketplace of invisible rankings. No wonder peace felt far away. He was never alone with his own practice. The hermit took the broom and swept 3 slow strokes. Dust moved, the road changed slightly, then wind placed a few grains back. The hermit smiled. This is practice, not final cleanliness. Returning, that evening, Suri sat in meditation and heard sandals outside the hall. Usually, he would identify who was late. This time, he felt his own breath instead. The sound of footsteps came and went. His chest rose and fell. Someone coughed. He returned. A memory appeared. He returned. A thought said another monk was better at returning. He almost believed it, then laughed silently. Even comparison could become a bell. This gate matters because many tired hearts are not only tired from work, they are tired from measurement. You compare your career, your appearance, your income, your healing, your calmness, your family, your discipline, your channel, your progress, your spiritual growth. Even rest becomes a contest. Am I sleeping deeply enough? Am I relaxing correctly? Am I becoming peaceful faster than before? The mind that compares cannot take a deep breath. It is too busy standing beside itself with a ruler. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows when we cling to a fixed self-image. Better than, worse than, equal to. All 3 can trap the mind. Better than creates pride and fear of falling. Worse than creates shame and resentment. Equal to creates anxiety about maintaining position. Peace begins when the path becomes intimate again. This foot, this breath, this moment of seeing, this return. Try a small practice. Imagine a road at dusk. Many footprints cross it. Some are deep, some light, some hurried, some wandering. Let them be there. Now find your own 2 feet. Feel them from inside, not as an image, as sensation. Warmth, pressure, tingling, weight. contact. Your life is not lived in someone else's footprint. It is lived here through this body, this breath, this next honest step. If comparison appears tonight, do not hate it. Simply name it, measuring, looking away, forgetting my road. Then return to the breath with the kindness you would offer a child who wandered from the path. Months passed. Suri became lighter, not because nobody surpassed him. People did. Younger monks chanted better. Older monks sat longer. Some villagers still bowed first to others. Dust continued to return, but Suri discovered a joy he had missed, the quiet satisfaction of one task done with one whole heart. One morning, the abbot found him sweeping the road after a night storm. Leaves were everywhere. Mud covered the stones. The work would take hours. Yet Suri's face was peaceful. The abbot asked, "Has the road finally stayed clean?" Suri bowed. "No, teacher, but I have stopped asking the road to become a mirror for my worth." This is a deep breath. To stop asking life to constantly prove you are enough. To stop asking other people's paths to explain your value. To stop turning every difference into a judgment. The road does not need to be finished for sweeping to matter. You do not need to be ahead for your life to be sacred. Soft interlude, letting the body believe you. Rest for a moment at this middle place. Some teachings enter through the ears, yet the body needs more time before it trusts them. The mind may say, "I understand." The shoulders may still remain lifted. The chest may continue guarding itself. The belly may hold its old circle of caution. Let understanding become slower now, so it can descend from thought into tissue. Give attention to your face. The face works hard in daylight. It explains, reassures, hides, agrees, endures, smiles, and prepares expressions before feelings have finished forming. Tonight the face can step away from public duty. Let the forehead widen. Let the area around the eyes loosen. Let the mouth stop carrying conversations that are not happening here. Now notice the back of the body. Most people forget the back because life seems to happen in front of them. Screens, roads, people, tasks, clocks. Yet the back carries history. It carries the weight of being dependable. It carries years of standing, sitting, bending, protecting. Imagine breath reaching behind you, like warm light entering a quiet room that has not been opened for a while. Nothing dramatic needs to occur. A small release is still release. A softer muscle is still wisdom. One honest exhale is still a doorway. The body has heard many commands. Work harder, move faster, hold it together, be fine. Tonight, let it hear another instruction, one it may not believe immediately. You can loosen and still be safe. If a part of you resists, include that resistance. It may be trying to protect you. Say inwardly, "Thank you for guarding me." You may stand down a little. Not forever, not all at once, just a little. This is the language of trust. Trust rarely obeys orders, but it responds to patience. When the next story begins, bring this patience with you. Let every image be received by the body, not only understood by the mind. Let the monk, the road, the tea, the river, and the night become sensations of permission. Gate 7. The tea that cooled anger. In a valley known for green tea, there was a father named Hien and a daughter named Lila. They loved each other fiercely and misunderstood each other often. Hien had survived hunger when he was young, so he believed safety came from discipline. Lila had grown up with enough food, but not enough listening. So she believed love should feel spacious. Their arguments began small and became old. "You are careless," Hien would say. "You only see my mistakes." Lila would answer, "I am trying to protect you. You are trying to control me." The same words returned season after season, wearing deeper grooves in both hearts. Neither wanted suffering. Both wanted love. But love, when filtered through fear, can sound like accusation. One winter evening, after a sharper argument than usual, Lila left the house and walked to the tea fields. Frost silvered the leaves. Her breath came out in small clouds. She sat beneath a storage shed and cried, angry at her father, angry at herself for caring, angry that old patterns could make two intelligent people sound like wounded children. An elderly tea master named Bao found her there. He had known her since she was little and did not ask for the story. Instead, he lit a small stove and placed a kettle over the flame. They sat in silence while the water warmed. When the kettle began to steam, Bao poured water directly over tea leaves in a cup and handed it to Lila immediately. She took one sip and grimaced. Bitter. Bao nodded. Too hot. Too soon. He prepared a second cup. This time, he waited after boiling, letting the water cool slightly before pouring. The tea opened gently. Its bitterness softened into grass, rain, and a sweetness that appeared only at the end. Anger is like water, Bao said. If poured at the first boil, it burns the leaves and calls the tea bitter. Wait, and the same heat can become medicine. Lila stared at the cup. So I should say nothing when I am angry? No. Tea that is never poured helps no one, but timing changes flavor. This teaching stayed with her. The next morning, when Hien began another lecture about responsibility, she felt the old heat rise. Her mouth prepared familiar arrows. Instead, she placed both hands around her tea bowl and waited. Her father continued speaking, then slowed because she was not fighting back. When he stopped, she said, "I know you are afraid for me." When fear speaks as criticism, I cannot hear the love underneath. Hien opened his mouth, closed it, and looked toward the window. It was not instant healing. He did not suddenly become a perfect listener, but the sentence entered the room differently because it had cooled before being poured. This gate is about the sacred pause between heat and speech. Many people think honesty means saying exactly what appears in the mind the moment it appears. That is not honesty. That is weather reporting with no wisdom. The first version of anger is often mixed with old wounds, assumptions, defense, pride, and the desire to make another person feel the pain we feel. Beneath that first boil, there may be a clean message. I felt dismissed. I need respect. I am scared. Please listen. But if we pour too quickly, the other person tastes only bitterness. Buddhist practice does not ask you to suppress anger. Suppressed anger becomes tension, resentment, sarcasm, illness, or sudden explosions in unrelated moments. Practice asks you to know anger as energy, not identity. Heat has arrived. The body is protecting something. The mind wants action. Before action, breathe. Try this now with a small memory, not one that overwhelms you. Recall a moment when irritation appeared recently. Notice where the body holds it. Throat, chest, belly, forehead, hands. Instead of replaying the story, feel the heat as sensation. Say softly, "Heat is here." Then give it one cooling breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale slowly, as if steam were leaving a cup. Ask, what is the tender need beneath this heat? Sometimes anger protects dignity. Sometimes it protects grief. Sometimes it protects exhaustion. Sometimes it protects a boundary that should have been named long ago. When you find the tender need, speech becomes less poisonous. Lila and Hien practiced imperfectly. They still argued. Families are not healed by one cup of tea. But they began noticing the first boil. Sometimes Lila would say, "I need time before I answer." Sometimes Hien would catch himself and say, "My fear is speaking too sharply." These sentences became small bridges. One spring morning they picked tea together in quiet mist. Hien moved slowly because his knees hurt. Lila reached for the higher branches. Neither mentioned the old arguments. After a long while, Hien said, "When you were small, I thought keeping you safe meant holding tightly. I did not know tight hands could also hurt." Lila placed leaves in her basket. "I know," she said. "I thought freedom meant pulling away from every hand. I did not know some hands were frightened, not cruel. They did not embrace dramatically. They kept picking tea, but the space between them had changed, not because anger disappeared, because it had been allowed to cool enough to reveal love. Tonight, if anger lives in you, let it be tea water. Do not throw it away. Do not pour it at the first boil. Hold it with care. Let breath lower the temperature. Let wisdom ask what the heat is protecting. When speech finally comes, may it be truthful enough to matter and gentle enough to be heard. A deep breath is sometimes the distance between harm and healing. Gate 8. The stone pillow of the tired guard. At the northern gate of an ancient city, a guard named Aaron watched the road through long nights. He was loyal, serious, and secretly exhausted. The city trusted him to notice danger before it arrived. Because of this, Arun began to believe that resting was betrayal. He slept lightly. He ate quickly. He scanned faces even during festivals. If laughter rose behind him, he turned to see why. If a dog barked, his hand moved toward his spear. His body forgot the difference between duty and alarm. One summer, a Buddhist monk requested permission to sleep outside the gate before continuing his pilgrimage. Arun allowed it, but warned him that the ground was hard. The monk smiled and placed his folded robe beneath his head. Hard ground can hold a soft sleeper. Arun almost envied him. The monk closed his eyes while carts creaked. Insects sang and drunk men stumbled home. Within minutes, his breathing became steady. Arun stood beside the gate, irritated by the ease of it. Near dawn, After a quiet night with no danger, Arun finally spoke. "How can you sleep so easily outside a city gate?" The monk opened one eye. "I am not guarding imaginary enemies." Arun frowned. "Enemies may come, yes. Then you meet them when they arrive. If I do not imagine them, I may fail to prepare." The monk sat up. Preparation is carrying a lamp. Anxiety is trying to carry the entire darkness. The words unsettled Arun. For years he had believed worry proved responsibility. If he imagined every disaster, perhaps none would surprise him. Yet the disasters he imagined exhausted him more than the few dangers that actually came. His vigilance had become a prison where every shadow demanded interrogation. The monk asked him to sit for 1 minute. Arun refused at first. "Guards, stand." The monk shrugged and lay down again. After another hour, with sunrise beginning and no one attacking the city, Arun sat on a stone near the gate. "Feel your feet," the monk said. Arun felt boots, dust, soreness. "Feel the spear in your hand." He felt wood polished by years of grip. "Now name what is actually here." Gate, road, morning, birdsong, tired legs, breath. Name what is not here. Arun hesitated. Invaders, fire, betrayal, disaster. The monk nodded. When what is not here controls what is here, the mind cannot rest. This gate speaks to the modern guard inside many listeners. You may not stand before an ancient city with a spear, but you guard many gates. Your family's future, your finances, your reputation, your health, your work, your plans, your loved ones, your sense of being good enough. You scan for signs, a delayed reply, a strange tone, a small ache in the body, a change at work, a news headline. The mind says, "Stay alert. Something could happen. Something could happen." That sentence can steal a life. Of course, preparation has value. Pay bills, lock doors, attend appointments, make plans, speak wisely. But after wise action is taken, anxiety often continues standing guard over empty roads. It calls this protection. The body experiences it as war. A deep breath asks, what is actually here? Not what might arrive next month, not what once happened years ago, not what fear predicts with a confident voice. Here, this room, this blanket, this breath, this tired body that has done enough for one day. Try Arun's practice now. Silently name 5 things that are actually present. Perhaps pillow, darkness, breath, warmth, distant sound. Then name 1 thing your mind has been guarding that is not present in this moment. Not to dismiss it forever, only to see that it is not standing in the room right now. The nervous system relaxes when reality becomes smaller than imagination. Anxiety expands the world until you must defend against everything. Mindfulness gently reduces the field. This breath, this sensation, this moment, manageable, livable. Here. Arun began practicing each dawn. Before leaving his post, he named what was present and what was absent. Over time, he became a better guard, not worse. Because he was less exhausted, he noticed real danger more clearly. Because he stopped spending strength on imaginary battles, his body responded when response was truly needed. The city remained safe, and Aaron began sleeping deeper during the day. One winter night, a young guard joined him, nervous and eager. Every sound frightened the young man. Arun recognized his former self and handed him a blanket. "But what if something happens?" the young guard asked. Arun looked down the empty road. "Then we will meet what happens. Until then, we do not bow to ghosts. Tonight, let that sentence enter gently. Do not kneel to phantoms. Let the future remain future until it becomes present. Let old pain remain memory until wisdom asks for its lesson. Let your body step down from the tower for a while. The gate does not need to be abandoned. It only needs a guard who knows when to breathe." Gate 9. The garden that grew after nothing was forced. Behind a monastery, in a dry province, there was a garden that refused to impress anyone. Visitors came expecting lotus ponds, carved stones, and rare blossoms. Instead, they found simple beds of herbs, a few fruit trees, patches of vegetables, and one stubborn corner where nothing seemed to grow. The garden keeper was a nun named Senna. She was small, cheerful, and patient in a way that made hurried people uncomfortable. Every morning she watered the soil, pulled weeds, checked leaves, and spoke to seedlings as if they were shy guests. The barren corner received the same care as the rest. A young man named Keat arrived at the monastery after losing his job in the city. He had not come for enlightenment. He came because an uncle knew the abbot and said the monastery needed help. Keat felt ashamed. His friends were being promoted, buying apartments, posting smiling photographs, and speaking about 5-year plans. He was pulling weeds beside an old wall. Sena assigned him to the barren corner. "Nothing grows here," Keat said. "Not yet," Sena replied. He dug, watered, added compost, and waited. Days passed, then weeks. Still nothing. His frustration grew. "This soil is dead." Sena knelt beside him and pressed her fingers into the earth. Soil is rarely dead. Often it is tired, compacted, or waiting for the right season. Keat heard himself in the sentence and disliked it. One afternoon, he lost patience and began digging aggressively, turning the soil again and again, searching for proof of progress. Sena watched from the path. When he finished, sweaty and angry, she said, "Some seeds are harmed by being checked too often." He threw down the tool. "I need something to change." Sena's face softened. Wanting change is natural. Grabbing the roots every day to see whether they are growing is suffering. That night, Keat could not sleep. He saw how much of his life had been root grabbing, checking messages for validation, refreshing job postings, comparing timelines, replaying interviews, demanding that healing show visible progress. Even meditation became another place where he dug up the soil. Am I calmer yet? Is this working? Why am I still anxious? Have I changed enough? In the morning, he returned to the barren corner and apologized, though he was not sure to whom. The soil, the seeds, himself. After that, he worked differently. He watered without drama. He loosened soil gently. He stopped inspecting every inch for proof. He began noticing other things: the smell after watering, the shadow of the wall moving slowly, the way small birds hopped near the compost pile, the relief of physical work after months of living inside worry. On the 23rd day, a green point appeared. It was tiny, almost nothing, yet Kiet stood before it as if seeing a temple rise from the earth. Senna came beside him and bowed. "The garden has spoken," she said. Kiet whispered, "It took so long." Senna smiled. "Only to the one waiting with a clock. This gate teaches patience without passivity. There is a difference between caring for growth and forcing growth. You can create conditions: water, light, rest, honest effort, wise support, gentle discipline. But the actual opening of the seed has its own timing. Many people suffer because they treat inner peace like a task with a deadline. I listened to a sleep story. Why am I not healed? I understand the teaching. Why do I still react? I breathed for 3 minutes. Why is my anxiety back? This impatience adds pressure to the very places asking for tenderness. Buddhist wisdom respects conditions. A flame needs shelter. A bowl needs space. A seed needs soil, moisture, darkness, and time. Your mind also grows through conditions: more kindness, less rushing, honest speech, pauses, body awareness, supportive environment, sleep, practice, repetition without violence. You cannot shame a seed into blooming. You cannot threaten the nervous system into calm. Pause here and imagine one small seed inside you. Maybe it is forgiveness, maybe rest, maybe courage, maybe trust, maybe the ability to sleep without fighting your thoughts. See it resting in dark soil. You do not need to dig it up. Place one breath over it like rain. Place one kind sentence over it like morning light. Say silently, "I can care for growth," without forcing it. Kiet stayed at the monastery for a season. Eventually, he found work again, but he left differently than he arrived. He no longer believed that a difficult period meant his life had stopped. He had seen the barren corner become green, not all at once, not because he demanded it, but because he learned to cooperate with time. Before leaving, he asked Sena what kind of seed had been planted there. She laughed. "I planted several. I wanted the soil to choose." That answer frustrated him and delighted him. Not everything needed to be controlled in advance. Some parts of life reveal themselves only after care has been given without guarantee. Tonight, if you are in a season where nothing seems to grow, let the garden keep you company. A quiet surface does not prove nothing is happening. Beneath soil, roots may be finding their way. Beneath restlessness, wisdom may be loosening old fear. Beneath this ordinary breath, your body may be remembering that it does not have to stay braced forever. Care for the conditions. Let growth come when it comes. Soft interlude. A small harbor before the river. Before we move toward the river, imagine a harbor at night. Boats rest there with ropes slack, their wooden sides touching dark water. No boat is traveling for a moment. No sail is raised. No cargo is being counted. Even vessels built for crossing need harbors. Even strong hearts need a place where movement is not required. Let this pause become such a harbor. The stories behind you do not need to be analyzed. The stories ahead do not need to be anticipated. Let them float around you like boats under moonlight. Some carry teachings about speech. Some carry teachings about comparison. Some carry the scent of tea, the patience of gardens. the shelter of lanterns. You do not have to unload them tonight. The harbor knows how to hold what arrives. Feel the edges of your body, the outline of shoulder, arm, hip, leg. Notice that you do not have to push outward to exist. You do not have to prove your shape to the room. You are already here. This simple fact is easy to overlook because so much of modern life asks you to justify your presence with usefulness. But a sleeping child is not useful and is still precious. A flower in darkness is not performing and is still alive. Your resting body does not need an argument for its worth. Allow one breath to enter like a tide. Allow one breath to leave like water drawing back from shore. Nothing is being taken from you by the exhale. The leaving makes space for receiving. This is not loss. This is rhythm. If heaviness remains, let it sit beside you in the harbor. Do not throw it into the sea. Do not invite it to steer the boat. Let it be cargo that can wait until morning. Tonight, you are learning that not everything carried must be carried consciously. Every hour. Stay here for a few gentle seconds. A harbor is not the end of the journey. It is the kindness that makes the journey possible. Gate 10. The river that did not keep the moon. There was a river that curved around 3 villages before reaching the sea. People gave it different names depending on where they lived. To farmers, it was the water that fed rice fields. To children, it was a place for skipping stones. To monks, it was a moving scripture. To grieving people, it was where they came when words were too heavy to carry indoors. Near this river lived an old ferryman named Luan. He knew the current in every season. He knew where fog gathered before dawn, where fish moved at dusk, where the bank became slippery after rain. His boat was plain, patched many times, and trusted by everyone. One night, a scholar came to the ferry carrying a lantern and a bundle of books. He had been studying impermanence and was deeply troubled by it. The idea that everything changes made him sad. He wanted truth to stay still. He wanted love to be protected from loss. He wanted achievements to remain meaningful forever. He wanted his own mind to settle into certainty and never move again. As Luan rowed across the dark water, the full moon appeared between clouds and rested perfectly on the river's surface. The scholar looked down and gasped. For a moment, the moon seemed to travel beside them, whole and trembling in the current. "Beautiful," he said. Luan nodded. Then the boat passed through ripples and the moon broke into silver fragments. The scholar sighed. There, even beauty cannot remain. Look up. The scholar looked at the sky. The moon was still whole. The river did not break the moon, Luan said. It only changed the reflection. The scholar became quiet. Many of your moods are reflections. Anxiety reflects imagined danger. Sadness reflects love meeting change. Anger reflects a boundary or wound. Joy reflects contact with something cherished. Reflections are real as experiences, but they are not the entire sky. When the river of the body moves, the reflection trembles. When thoughts ripple, the self-image breaks and reforms. You may think you are broken because your reflection changes, but awareness, like the moon above the water, is not damaged by every movement below. The scholar asked if the moon above remains whole. Why do reflections hurt so much? Because you keep trying to hold them, Luan said. He rested the oars and let the boat drift. The moon's reflection stretched along the current. Luan dipped his hand into the water and tried to scoop up the moon. Water slipped through his fingers. Light scattered, then returned. You can touch the reflection, he said, but you cannot possess it. This gate brings us to letting go. Not the harsh kind where you force yourself not to care. True letting go is not emotional amputation. It is a wiser way of holding you. Still love. You still remember. You still work. You still hope. But you stop demanding that changing things behave as if they are permanent. Much of human suffering comes from trying to keep the reflection still. You want a happy moment to last. You want a loved one never to change. You want your body to remain young, your role to remain secure, your plans to unfold exactly, your confidence to stay unshaken, your peace to remain untouched after one good meditation. Then life ripples. The reflection changes. You feel betrayed by reality. Buddhist wisdom says nothing has betrayed you. This is the nature of water. Letting go begins by seeing clearly. This moment is here. It is already changing. I can love it without owning it. I can feel it without becoming it. I can appreciate it without trapping it. The breath itself teaches this all night long. Inhale arrives, exhale leaves. If you tried to hold the inhale forever, it would become suffering. The breath nourishes you because it comes and goes. Try a gentle reflection. Think of one pleasant thing you have wanted to keep unchanged. A relationship, a time in life, a feeling, a version of yourself, a dream. Notice any tightening around it. Now imagine holding it like moonlight on water. Open hands, soft eyes, gratitude without gripping. Say silently, I can love what changes. Then think of one unpleasant feeling you have feared would last forever. Anxiety, loneliness, grief, uncertainty, shame. See it also as a reflection on moving water. Not fake, not meaningless. Changing, unable to remain exactly the same. Say silently, this too belongs to the river. The scholar reached the far bank, changed not by a complex doctrine, but by a moon he could not hold. He continued studying, but his study became warmer. When students later came to him frightened by impermanence, he would take them to water rather than open a book. He would point to reflections and say, watch carefully. Nothing stays, yet nothing is wasted. Luan ferried people for many more years. When he grew old and his hands weakened, the villagers built a small shelter near the dock so he could sit and watch the river he had served. Children asked whether he missed rowing. He answered, the river still moves. I can travel by watching. On his final evening, the moon rose again. Those who sat with him said his breathing became soft. Like oars entering water, he looked at the reflection and smiled. The river does not keep the moon, he whispered. That is why it can receive it every night. Tonight, let the river teach your hands to open. This breath can bless you without being kept. This moment can matter without being captured. Every former version of yourself may bow and step back from memory. The river continues. The moon returns in new water. Let go does not mean lose. Sometimes It means receive again. Gate 11. The house with one quiet room. In a crowded town, there was a house that seemed ordinary from the street. Its walls were pale, its roof uneven, and jasmine grew wildly around the gate. Inside lived a widow named Mara, her 2 grandchildren, 3 chickens that ignored boundaries, and more noise than she had expected in old age. The children were good-hearted and loud. They argued over toys, sang unfinished songs, spilled rice, asked questions while Mara counted coins, and burst into the room whenever she sat down. The chickens scratched near the doorway. Neighbors called for help. Pots boiled over. Rain leaked through one corner of the roof. Mara loved her family, yet she sometimes felt as if her own soul had nowhere to sit. One day, a monk visited to collect alms. He saw the tiredness behind Mara's smile and asked whether she had a place for silence. Mara laughed. In this house, even silence would be interrupted. The monk looked around. Every house needs one quiet room. I have no extra room. Then make one inside a moment. He took a piece of chalk and drew a small circle on the kitchen floor near the wall, barely large enough for 2 feet. Stand here once a day, he said, for 3 breaths. This is your quiet room. No one else needs to understand. Mara thought it was foolish. Still, that evening, after washing bowls and settling the children, she stood in the chalk circle. One chicken wandered past. A child called from another room. Her back hurt. Nothing mystical happened. She breathed 3 times and stepped out. The next day, she returned, then the next. Sometimes she forgot until midnight. Sometimes the circle had been smudged, and she drew it again. After a week, the children noticed. "Grandmother, why do you stand there?" "This is my quiet room," she said. They looked around the noisy kitchen and giggled. But gradually, something unexpected happened. When Mara entered the circle, the children lowered their voices. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough, they began to understand that quiet could be a thing one respects. One afternoon, her youngest grandchild drew a tiny circle beside hers and stood there after crying. "I need my quiet room too," he said. This gate is about sanctuary. Many people postpone peace because they imagine it requires a different life. More space, more money, a less demanding job, a calmer family, a perfect morning routine, a retreat center, a cabin near trees. Those things can help, but they are not the essence. The essence is a boundary of attention. A quiet room can be 3 breaths before answering the phone. It can be washing your hands slowly. It can be sitting in the car before entering work. It can be closing your eyes after turning off the lamp. It can be a chalk circle nobody sees except the part of you that needs to remember. The modern world invades attention constantly. Notifications cross thresholds without knocking. Work enters the bedroom. Other people's opinions enter breakfast. News enters the nervous system before sunlight. Without a quiet room, the mind begins to believe it belongs to everyone except itself. Tonight, create one quiet room inside this moment. You do not need chalk. Let the boundary be breath. For the next 3 breaths, nothing needs to be solved. First breath, enter. Second breath, stay. Third breath, soften. If thoughts come in, Do not push them out harshly. Let them sit by the wall. This room is not built by force. It is built by remembering who is allowed to rest here. Mara's house did not become silent. The roof still leaked. The children still argued. The chickens remained unreasonable, but Mara changed. Because she had one place, however small, where she returned to herself, she no longer felt completely swallowed by the noise. Months later, a neighbor came crying after a family quarrel. Mara did not offer advice immediately. She drew a chalk circle beside the kitchen wall and said, "Stand here first." The neighbor was confused, but too tired to resist. She stood, she breathed. Her crying slowed. "What is this?" she asked. "A room the world cannot enter unless you invite it," Mara said. "This is what practice gives you. Not a life without interruption, but a way to return after interruption. Not permanent silence, but a remembered doorway. Not escape from love, work, duty, and grief, but a small inner room where you can meet them without losing yourself." When the grandchildren grew older, they still remembered the chalk circles. One became a carpenter and built houses with window seats in quiet corners. One became a nurse and taught patients to breathe before painful treatments. Neither called it Buddhism. They called it grandmother's room. A teaching does not need a label to become medicine. Tonight, may you find the quiet room inside the breath. May it be small enough to enter easily and strong enough to shelter what is tender. When the world grows loud again, you will know where the door is. Gate 12, the sleep of the ox, beside the temple. At the end of a long road stood a temple where travelers came seeking blessings before crossing the mountains. Beside the temple lived an ox named Moku. He was large, brown, patient, and completely uninterested in spiritual reputation. While monks debated sutras, Moku chewed grass. While pilgrims wept before statues, Moku flicked flies with his tail. While bells rang at dawn, Moku sometimes continued sleeping with one ear raised. A serious young pilgrim named Jalen disliked the ox. He had come to the temple hoping for profound instruction, and the sight of this animal sleeping beside sacred steps annoyed him. It seemed disrespectful. How could an ox nap while people searched for awakening? The abbot noticed Jalen's irritation and asked what troubled him. "That ox sleeps through everything," Jalen said. The abbot looked at Moku, who was snoring softly in the shade. "Yes, he is one of our best teachers." Jalen thought the abbot was joking. That evening, after prayers, the abbot invited Jalen to sit near Moku. The ox lowered himself heavily to the ground, exhaled through wide nostrils, and settled. His body seemed to trust the earth completely. No part of him appeared to be holding tomorrow. No muscle tried to impress anyone. He was not asking whether he deserved rest. He was not reviewing his usefulness. He was not comparing his stillness to another ox's stillness. He was tired, so he slept. The abbot whispered, "Humans make rest complicated." Jalen watched the animal breathe. Something in the simplicity of it exposed his own suffering. He had turned rest into a negotiation. Had he worked enough to rest? Had he prayed enough? Had he understood enough? Was sleep avoidance a sign of devotion? If he lay down early, Would he waste his life? If he stopped striving, would he become ordinary? Moku sighed and shifted, placing his enormous head more comfortably on the ground. The abbot said, "Even the ox knows the body belongs to the earth before it belongs to ambition. This final gate is about permission, not permission from society, achievement, family expectation, or inner criticism. Permission from wisdom. The wisdom that knows rest is not laziness. Sleep is not defeat. Pausing is not falling behind. A field that is never left fallow becomes poor. A lamp that burns without oil goes dark. A body pushed beyond its messages eventually speaks in pain." Many listeners arrive at bedtime carrying the question, "Did I do enough today?" The mind begins listing evidence, tasks completed, tasks delayed, words spoken, mistakes made, messages unanswered, money earned, calories eaten, promises kept, promises broken. It presents the day like a courtroom file and asks sleep to wait for the verdict. But sleep is not a prize for a perfect defendant. Sleep is a form of trust. To sleep, you must release control for a while. You must stop guarding every gate. Stop managing every impression. Stop holding every thread. This is why anxious minds resist sleep. Sleep asks the ego to step aside. It says, "For now, you cannot fix, improve, defend, explain, or perform. You can only be held." The ox understands being held. Tonight, let the body learn from Moku. Feel the support beneath you. The bed, chair, floor, or blanket is not asking you to prove anything before receiving your weight. It simply receives. Let your face become less arranged. Let the tongue rest. Let the belly stop pretending it is not tired. Let the hands uncurl from invisible tools. If a thought says, "But tomorrow," answer gently, "Tomorrow will have its own breath." If a memory says, "But earlier," answer, "Earlier has already passed through the gate." If ambition says, "You must become more," answer, "Tonight I practice becoming less defended." Jalan stayed at the temple for 7 days. He did receive teachings from the abbot, but the one he remembered most came from the ox. On his final morning, he bowed awkwardly to Moku, who continued chewing grass. The abbot asked what he had learned. Jalan said, "I came seeking awakening and found an animal that does not apologize for resting." The abbot smiled. "Good. Now learn to sleep without apology." Years later, when Jalan became a teacher himself, students expected him to give complex practices for insomnia and restless thought. Sometimes he did, but often he began with the ox. He would tell tired people, "Before you search for a higher state, ask whether you have allowed the body to be simple. Warmth, weight, breath, darkness, safety, enough." So we end where the breath began, not with a grand conclusion, but with the body slowly remembering that it can be held. By the night, you have passed through many gates tonight. The old bell that delayed its sound, a clay bowl given room, the seamstress who let worry settle, a repaired bridge of honest words, a lantern protected from rough weather, a dusty road swept without measurement, tea cooled before speech, a guard who refused to salute imagined danger, a garden trusted beneath quiet soil, moonlight received by moving water, a chalk circle that became sanctuary, an ox resting without apology. Each gate has been a different way of saying the same gentle truth. You do not need to fight yourself into peace. You can return, breath by breath, step by step, story by story, pause by pause. If your mind is still awake, let it be awake more softly. If your heart is still carrying something, let it carry with less tightening. If your body is tired, let tiredness be honest. You are not failing because sleep has not arrived exactly when commanded. You are learning to stop commanding. That itself is rest beginning. Place one hand near the chest if it feels natural. Feel the breath enter and leave. Imagine the old bell waiting until you arrive. Imagine the bowl with space. Imagine the lantern protected. Imagine the river receiving moonlight again and again without possession. Imagine the old resting ox breathing under the wide patience of night. May you be peaceful. May you be safe in your own body. May your thoughts lose their sharp edges. May your breath become a quiet path. May whatever is unfinished wait kindly until morning. Thank you for spending this time with Sleepy Buddha. If these stories helped your heart soften, you may subscribe, like, or share them with someone who needs rest. Your support helps this quiet place continue offering Buddhist stories, Zen teachings, and gentle reflections for deep sleep, emotional healing, and inner peace. Gate 13, the pillow that learned the rain. In a village where the rainy season arrived with great ceremony, there lived a pillow maker named Ori. People came to him because he knew how to make pillows that suited different sleepers. For children, he used soft cotton and stitched little clouds along the edge. For elders with aching necks, he shaped firmer cushions filled with clean husks. For travelers, he made small rolls that could be tied to a pack. His shop smelled of cloth, cedar boxes, and afternoon tea. Ori's pillows helped many people sleep, yet Ori himself slept badly. This was the private joke of his life, though he did not find it funny. Each night he lay among his own creations, surrounded by proof that he understood comfort, and still his mind wandered like a restless dog through alleys of worry. He thought about customers, debts, weather, family, unfinished stitching, and whether the village would continue needing him when cheaper goods arrived from the city. During one stormy evening, a nun came to buy a pillow for a sick friend. Rain struck the roof so loudly that conversation had to move slowly. Ori apologized for the noise. The nun touched the fabric on his table. Rain is only noise when the mind demands silence. Ori almost argued. He had spent many nights blaming rain, heat, insects, distant carts, and barking dogs for his sleeplessness. But the nun's voice was calm enough to make him curious. He asked what she meant. She said, "When you lie down, do you listen, or do you inspect the world for reasons you cannot rest?" The question followed him into night. After closing the shop, Ori lay down while rain continued. His first habit appeared quickly. Too loud. Tomorrow will be difficult. I need sleep now. Why is this happening tonight? The mind built a wall against the rain, and every drop became an enemy striking it. Then he remembered the nun. He stopped inspecting. He listened. One sound on the roof, another against the shutters, a softer tapping, near the back room, water sliding from the eaves. The storm was not one thing. It was many small arrivals, some sharp, some gentle, some distant, some near. As Ori listened, without demanding that the rain disappear, his body changed. The sounds did not become silent. They became less personal. For the first time in months, he slept before the storm ended. The next day, he found the nun and asked for the teaching behind it. She said, "A pillow cannot give rest to a head that is arguing with the night. This gate is for the moment when you want sleep so badly that wanting becomes another form of wakefulness." Many people come to bed with a command, "Sleep now." The body hears pressure, not safety. The mind checks the clock, calculates lost hours, predicts tomorrow's weakness, and turns rest into a performance. Then even a comfortable pillow becomes a stage where failure is measured minute by minute. Buddhist wisdom offers a softer entrance. Do not demand sleep. Create conditions where sleep may feel welcome. Lower the fight, widen the listening. Let the night be the night. If there is sound, let sound be part of the room. If there are thoughts, let thoughts pass through like late travelers. If the body is restless, meet restlessness with curiosity rather than accusation. Try Ori's practice now. Choose one sound you can hear. It might be nearby, far away, steady, brief, pleasant, or ordinary. Let it arrive without naming it good or bad. Notice its beginning. Notice its fading. Notice that awareness can receive sound without becoming disturbed by it. Now include the breath. Sound comes, breath moves, sound leaves, breath remains. If no clear sound is present, listen to the quiet itself. Quiet is not empty. It has texture. It has depth. It holds the small hum of existence. Let listening become a pillow for the mind. After that night, Ori changed how he made pillows. He still cared about shape and fabric, but he began placing a small card inside each finished package. On it he wrote different reminders, never exactly the same. One said, "Let the room be as it is," before asking the body to rest. Another said, "The night does not have to obey you in order to hold you." Another said, "A softer listening may carry you farther than a stronger command." Customers began returning to tell him strange things. A widow said the card helped her stop fighting the creaking house after her husband died. A young father said he listened to his baby's breathing instead of resenting interrupted sleep. A student said exam worry still came, but she no longer treated every thought as proof that rest was impossible. Ori kept one pillow for himself, plain and undecorated. During storms, he placed his head upon it and listened. Sometimes he slept quickly, sometimes he remained awake longer. But even wakefulness became kinder. He no longer used the night as evidence against himself. He no longer made every sound stand trial. This is how a deep breath approaches the edge of sleep. To stop demanding that the night become perfect before you let yourself be held. To stop turning wakefulness into an enemy. To allow rest to begin as listening, softening, receiving. Tonight, if sleep comes, welcome it. If sleep waits, do not chase it with a torch. Let the pillow hold your head. Let the breath hold your body. Let awareness hold the changing weather of the mind. Rain may fall. Thoughts may pass. The night may continue in its own rhythm. You can still become less defended inside it. A peaceful sleeper is not someone who controls the dark. A peaceful sleeper is someone who has stopped arguing with the rain. Closing reflection, the breath that does not ask for perfection. There is one final kindness to understand before the night grows deeper. The breath does not ask you to be peaceful before it enters. It does not wait until you have forgiven everyone, completed every task, answered every question, or become the person you imagined you would be by now. Breath comes to the imperfect. Breath comes to the confused. Breath comes to the grieving. Breath comes to the one who tried hard and still feels unfinished. That is why it is such a trustworthy teacher. It does not measure you. It does not compare today's practice with yesterday's. It does not say, "You should have learned this lesson sooner." It arrives, leaves, and arrives again. This is mercy in its most ordinary form. When Buddhist teachers speak about returning, they are not speaking about a heroic act. They are speaking about this humble movement. The mind wanders into fear. Return. The heart tightens around memory. Return. The body braces against tomorrow. Return. The old habit speaks loudly. Return. Each return is a tiny act of freedom, not because the wandering was wrong, but because you remembered you were not trapped there. Imagine a child learning to walk across a room. No loving parent counts only the falls. They see the standing, the wobbling, the courage of another attempt. Offer yourself that same intelligence. Your nervous system has learned many patterns over many years. It may not release them because one beautiful story asked politely, "Let practice be patient. Let healing have weather. Let tonight be one seed, not the entire forest." If sleep comes soon, let it take you without needing a perfect ending. If sleep comes later, remain kind while waiting. Rest is already beginning when the fight against wakefulness softens. Even lying quietly with less resistance is a form of nourishment. The body knows how to gather some strength from stillness. You may hear distant sounds. Let them remain with the wider world. You may feel thoughts moving. Allow those thoughts to pass through mind space. You may feel emotion rising. Let the heart hold that weather gently. None of these need to become enemies. A deep breath has room for them. A wise night does not require total silence. It only asks that you stop turning every sound into a problem. So breathe once with the bell. Breathe once with the bowl. Breathe once with the river. Breathe once with the ox resting beside the temple. Let all these teachers become simple now. No more analysis. No more effort to remember every lesson. The teaching has done its work if even one part of you feels slightly less alone. May this breath be enough for the body. May this pause be enough for the mind. May this night be enough for the heart. Closing reflection. A lamp left gently burning. Some teachings are meant to be carried into morning, but not as heavy objects. Carry them like a lamp. A lamp does not explain the whole road. It only gives enough light for the next step. That is all you need. Tomorrow, when hurry returns, remember the bell. When worry folds itself into your hands, remember the seamstress. When comparison counts another person's footsteps, remember the dusty road. When anger boils, remember the tea. When fear guards an empty distance, remember the city gate at dawn. You do not need to become someone who never forgets. You only need practices kind enough to welcome you back. This is why stories matter. A rule may scold you, but a story waits inside memory until life resembles it. Then, suddenly the lantern seller appears, while you are choosing whether to open one more stressful page before bed. The garden keeper appears when progress feels invisible. The ferryman appears when you try to hold moonlight still. The ox appears when you feel guilty for resting. Let these images work quietly. They do not need to be forced. Wisdom often continues beneath awareness, the way roots continue beneath soil. You may wake tomorrow with one phrase, one scene, or one breath remaining. That is enough. A single clear image can interrupt an old pattern. A single pause can protect a whole conversation. A single honest exhale can tell the nervous system that the war is not happening right now. And if this night becomes difficult again, return to the simplest instruction. Feel what supports you. Let the exhale lengthen naturally. Name what is here. Release what is only imagined for the moment. Give the flame shelter. Let the seeds stay buried. Allow the river to move. Peace is not a place you reach once and defend forever. Peace is a relationship you renew with breath, with body, with speech, with time, with uncertainty, with the tired, sincere person you are when nobody is watching. That person deserves gentleness. That person has carried enough. That person may rest now. The lamp remains lit, not because the night is gone, but because one small flame has been protected with care. Let it burn quietly while sleep approaches. Let it ask nothing from you. Let it simply be there, warm and steady, as the edges of thought grow soft. May you remember the quiet room inside yourself. May you remember that nothing true is lost when the hands open. May you remember that the breath is already home. Now there is nothing more to hold. Let the next breath be enough. Let the night do what effort cannot. Rest